जगदम्बा माँ वरदानी कल्याणी, मधुबन के फूलों ने सुनाई प्यारी मधुर कहानी, एक थी माँ रूहानी। याद आते हैं रह रह कर जो हमें झुलाए झूले, साथ में बीते दिन वो प्यारे नहीं भुलाए भूले। याद आते हैं रह रह कर जो हमें झुलाए झूले, साथ में बीते दिन वो प्यारे नहीं।
So, gentlemen, welcome to our, we call it Cyber Murli now, because we have people from quite a few countries every day. And for those who don't know Sister Jayanti is our senior. She's our Middle East senior. And she's been taking care of us for the last, how many years? Since Middle East service started, 25 years. And Sister Jayanti came to Baba in the 50s. And then just before Baba became Avyak, Sister Jayanti surrendered into the Yagya in 1968, end of 67, I think. She attended the Kumari's Bhatti, and she's had sustenance from Mama, Baba, and Sister Jayanti's family was the first family to come to London and start the Seva. So it wasn't just London Seva, but it was actually international Seva. And Baba used to write letters to Rajni Ben, Sister Jayanti's mother. And so Sister Jayanti has the title of the Flying Bird. And on a personal note, Sister Jayanti has definitely helped in my progress. There was one time where she told me off, and she told me that I was too young to surrender, and I got quite upset actually. But ever since then, she's been, well, I'm sure that was for my benefit too, but no, ever since then, she's just been always there for me, and always present, always answering the messages, and a real support. So thank you, Sister Jayanti, for making this time. We'd like you to share stories of Mama, but anything other than that, you're welcome to as well. Thank you.
Sure, thank you, Aruna. And yes, I do agree that when people surrender very young, they don't know themselves, and you have a journey of discovery, which is a great adventure, but it's also a bit of a roller coaster. And I say that for you. I also say that for me, because I also surrendered when I was 19, but I'm glad I did that. It's taught me many, many things, and I'm sure that you also feel the same. And hello to everyone. Happy to be with you all. And Mama has become omnipresent in cyberspace, and so lots and lots of different interviews and programs about Mama. So it's been really lovely to see how Mama's been honored this year especially. And for me, it's the first time I've been in Madhuban for Mama's Day. Imagine all these years, and it's the first time, but it's the right time. Mama, the goddess of love, she's usually remembered as the goddess of wisdom, and she is definitely that also. But for me, the first impact was the mother's love, and so Jagadamba. And the love was vast. You could just come into her presence, and I was 8. This was 1957, November, Rajuri Garden, Delhi. Mama, Baba both were there. And Mama's heart was so big, she could just take everybody in and hold them in that space. And so the connection in a conscious way with Mama started at that time. And then, of course, it was also a lovely preparation to meet Baba a few minutes later. And again, the amazing personality and the dignity of this human being. I wasn't seeing him as an instrument for God at that time. I didn't know. I'd heard it, but the heart didn't know what to do with that information. 8 years old, you don't have the space to sort things out in that way. But this amazing person who was towering, 6 feet plus, and was like a very warm, loving grandfather at the same time. Amazing dignity and royalty and personality, but just the love. And then coming to London every week, Murlis were coming through the post, but also letters from Daddy Janki every 2 weeks, definitely. And Rama Baba, and that was every month. And Mama was from time to time. And Mama's letters were in a language that you probably never heard of, most of you, Gurumukhi. And that's Punjabi basically. But it's a language of the Sikh scriptures. And at that time, those were raised in the 20s and 30s were taught Gurumukhi, because in the home they would be the Gita. They were Hindus, they would be the Gita, but they would also be the Gurumukhi. And they would also study the Sufi saints. And so Sindh being where it is in terms of geography, there was the Sufi influence, there was the Hindu influence, and there was the Punjab influence of the Sikh religion. And so they grew up with this eclecticism in which they weren't dividing things into segments or sections. They grew up with all of this as their natural inheritance. And there was no conflict in that at all. And so Gurumukhi was my mother's language too. She had studied that. So Mama's letters would come to us in that, and she would never forget to send her love to the children. And then in 1964, I was in Bombay, and I heard Mama was there too. And I wanted to see Mama. And I wasn't meditating, I wasn't studying Murli or anything, but the love had been there in the heart. And surprisingly, or on hindsight, not surprisingly, Mama said yes, she would meet us. And so me and my little brother, we went along with my mother, who had been a daily student and had been going every day for class. And studying Baba's Murli, it was very powerful for my mother, of course, but for myself, it was a mind-blowing experience. Knowing that Mama's not well, but at that point, Mama just simply radiant. And I look back and I know that it must have been the practice of being bodiless, detached from the body, that allowed Mama that possibility of having a face that was radiating love and purity and a big smile like the moon. And the body was settling its own karma, but to the point where she was on morphine. So it was quite serious. But Mama's mind was unaffected. Mama's face gave no indication of anything. But that's spirituality. The body, soul is separate, and the soul can experience that detachment. And my mother had a question for Mama. And she said to Mama, Mama, can you tell them to meditate? Me and my brother. And Mama looked at her, looked at me, looked at my brother, looked at all of us. And then Mama said, you leave them alone. They'll meditate when they're ready. And that was such a relief to my heart. If Mama had said, meditate, I don't know that I knew how to meditate or was interested to learn. So I don't know that I would have or not. But certainly at this point, when Mama said, leave her alone, it was real comfort, because it gave me space and freedom. and I didn't have to argue or complain or anything. So my love for Mama became even deeper, more profound at that moment. But that was the wisdom of Mama. If there's a young one who's in your family, don't force them, because that will push them in the opposite direction. But if you were to say to them, it's okay, at the right time, and just give them love and show them the path of truth, and then whatever's their destiny, let that take care of it. And yes, maybe they become a BK, maybe they just stay friends of BKs, whichever it is, it's their destiny. But you have shown them the path of love and the path of truth, and that's your duty. So Mama gave a very lovely answer, which was absolutely what I needed. And that image of Mama and her love stayed. 1965, it's June the 24th, we've got examinations. It's I'm studying hard, but I come home and my mother's in tears and she gives me a telegram. And the telegram reads, Mateshwari left the body, is avyakt, nothing new, drama with Ashri. So Baba must have asked Dadi Kumarka. She was, I think, the one who sent out all those telegrams. And I had tears. We sat in yoga and it was very powerful, remembering Mama, and through Mama, remembering Baba. Remembering Mama automatically drew attention to God, and I was able to remember God. And it was a feeling of great power reaching me and great comfort also. The next year, I was determined to go to Abu, because who knows, Mama's gone away, maybe Baba will go, I want to see Baba. And so we go, and meeting Baba was lovely, but today focus is Mama. But Baba asked Mama a question, and the question was, is everything okay? Is there anything else you want in Madhuban? We were there just for 4 or 5 days, and we were the only group that was there, 30 Madhuban Nivasis and about a small group from Pune with Dadi Janki, myself, Rajni Ben, and my grandmother, and a couple of other people. And my brother also was there. And my mother, to my surprise, I wasn't expecting her to say this, my mother said, Baba, I'm missing Mama very much. And Baba looked at her and said, do you want to meet Mama? And of course, that was what she wanted. And so Baba said, Baba will send a message to the Almighty, and whatever Baba says, we'll see the drama. And Baba arranged that we should come to his room the next evening at about 6 o'clock in the evening. And no promises, but Baba had said he would send a message, so that was wonderful. And the reason why my mother was especially missing Mama was because when she'd come 64, after the meeting in Bombay, Mama had come back to Abu. We'd come back to London to go back to school, and my mother had stayed on for an extended time. And she'd been in that room near the history hall where Dadi Gulzar stays now, and Mama had been in the room opposite the veranda, and that was where then later Dadi Prakash Mani stayed. So at some point, Mama, although she herself wasn't well, noticed that Rajni Ben wasn't so well. And so she went across to her room and said, what's the problem? And Rajni Ben talked about the pain in her back. Mama put her hand on her back and just gently, just went like this, gently massaging, touching. And after that, that pain never ever came back. And my mother lived till 2001, but the pain never came back. And so just an indication of the healing power of such a great soul. I know that Baba had that healing capacity. I've experienced Daddy Janki's healing capacity. She took away my fever just going like this at one point, and that was around 1981, 80, 81, something like that. So these souls have amazing capacities. But Mama had taken away her pain, and so of course being back in Abu especially and remembering Mama was there. Next day we sit in yoga, and Baba's room was that tiny little room where the chair is today for the sisters, one sister chair. There was actually a wall with a little doorway, and behind was Lachu Dadi's room, Ishu Dadi's room, stock room. And of course, that room had to be expanded because so many people wanted to feel Baba's vibrations. But at that time, Baba's space was very tiny. So Baba's sitting on that gaddi, which is still there. And on the other side is Dadi Shilendra. So she had taken the message to Baba that this was the request. And so both of them are sitting on the gaddi, and a few of us are sitting in front of Baba and taking drishti. And Dadi goes off into trance, and then the eyes open, and there's drishti for everyone. And with the drishti, there's a very powerful feeling that it's not Dadi, it's Mama. And truly, it was Mama who had come. And there was a lot of love. Dadi Shilendra, some of you know her, was very, very slender, skinny, in fact. She didn't have very good health, but was still very strong spiritually. So very skinny. And Mama, of course, was well-rounded, the mother. And yet somehow you could almost see Mama in the features, in the eyes. Maybe it was the vibration, the gentleness, the love, the compassion. I think it was more that, but the way the mind works, it's like you're seeing Mama. And after Drishti, then she asks us all if there's anything we want to say. I'm too scared. I don't know what to say, and I don't speak Hindi very much. Rajniben has a question, and Mama indicates, go ahead. And she says, when am I going to be like you? And Mama says, you want to be Lakshmi? And Rajni goes, no. When can I be as sweet as you? And Mama's reply, but you are that. You are that already. All you have to do is remember that. And I have to say that now I look back, Rajniben's nature softened considerably at that point. It became a blessing for her. And just think about Mama's supreme wisdom. Tell a person, yes, you have to work on it, you have to be careful, you have to work hard. No. Just remember who you are in your eternal state of being. Just let yourself be that, and that's what will emerge and will be expressed. And so it was a lovely, lovely reminder of Mama's wisdom, but also Mama's love and Mama's method. Remind a soul of who they actually are instead of making them work hard. And so that was a very wonderful gift in the drama from Baba and Mama. There were two other questions that Rajni Ben had asked Mama when she first came into Gyan, and that might be relevant again for some of you. But again, Mama's wisdom. Now this was 1957 again, and at that point Mama would have been 56, 37, something like that. Yeah, around then. And the wisdom was incredible. Rajniben had taken Gyan, and a few months into Gyan, and Mama had come to Pune. And so the foundation of making Pune strong was Mama. And Rajniben said to Mama, she loved Mama's Murli, the way in which it flowed, the eloquence, the sweet music of Saraswati playing her veena. And she said, Mama, I love the Gyan, I love the yoga, but all of you came 20 years ago. And so all the main seats have been filled already. And so there's not much space left. And so rather than beat my head and work hard and make intense effort, is it okay if I just read the Murli at home, remember Baba at home, and maybe I can just carry on in that way? That will be much, much easier for me. And Mama's answer, very, very lovely. Mama said, well, the drama hasn't yet begun. The drama is to begin at its own fixed time. But some people have to leave very early because you're going to walk. Others have a uluk cart, and so they can leave a tiny bit later. Somebody has a bicycle, they can leave a bit later. Somebody has a car, they can leave even later. Somebody has an aeroplane, and in 1957 were the first rockets, and somebody has a rocket, and so they can leave just very close to the start of the drama. But everybody will reach the start of the drama in time and take their seats. So the seats are vacant, and so you can, at this moment, claim one of the front row seats because the drama hasn't started yet. It's going to start at its own appointed time. So if you make effort in the way Baba's asking you to make effort, there's a space for you. Does it strike your heart, whatever time you came, whether you came in the days of Yet Blessings personally, or whether you came a bit later than that, or whether you've come in the last couple of years in which we haven't had those meetings with Avyakt Baba. But I'm sure all of you who are listening have had a lot of sustenance from Daddy Prakash Mani and definitely from Daddy Janki. I know that she loved coming to Kuwait and all the other countries in that region. She came to all the different countries in that region. And so a message that doesn't matter when you came, but the knowledge has been refined gradually through the years. And so now the knowledge is absolutely clear and is available for you. And you can use that refined fuel for your rocket and move ahead very, very fast. So Mama was always inspirational, always giving hope. Another question that Rajniben asked Mama, Baba keeps telling us that lust and anger are the great enemies, and I agree. So surely it would be easier if Baba told us things like greed and attachment and the little ones, not the big ones. So Baba should let us deal with those things and then tell us to conquer the big ones. And that would be more useful. And Mama's answer, Mama said, if there's an army, if you try attacking all the little soldiers who are there in front of you, the big one, the commander, is going to keep sending in reinforcements. There'll be more and more and more coming all the time. But if you manage to deal with the commander, that's it. The rest is very easy because the commander is gone, and so you can deal with all the other ones easily. And so, again, a beautiful answer with a very powerful message, something that's useful in terms of spiritual effort. Another thing that I know that the young sisters in Kunj Bhavan used to ask Mama, and now we're going back to the early days when Mama was staying with 60 Kumaris in Kunj. That place is now a school for boys, Bayview School, and it was right, as it states, by the water, but it's changed now. They've dried up the ocean and reclaimed the land, and at some point the sea is going to claim back its own. But at that point, and I had the good fortune of visiting that school a couple of times, and there's a staircase, a short landing, another staircase, and the big classroom. And by the side was Mama and Dadi Nurmushanta's room. But I went to see it alone with other Karachi people. We didn't know all this. But the second time we went was with Dadi Janki. She was so excited to see it. And she was like running around the garden and climbing up the stairs faster than us. It was a place that she knew and loved so deeply. And then she told us the exact location of everything. And imagine 60 Kumaris ranging from age 11, probably that was Ishu Dadi's age, the youngest there at that time in Kunj Bhavan, ranging up to not more than 23, 24. And all the mothers were in another building and so on and so on. So at that point, can you imagine 60 young girls living together, and there's no outside entertainment. No one's going out to school or work or leisure anywhere. We're all there inside. And it was God's power that was pulling their intellects and keeping them in a very elevated state of mind. And so everything was peace and harmony and love. And this is why the Dadis so deeply connected with each other that you saw right till the very end. The way in which the Dadis would greet each other with that drishti, with that love, with that recognition, that deep connection. And you often saw Dadi Janki and Dadi Gulzar walking around Shakti Bhavan, and it was such a beautiful sight. So the foundation of that love was Kunj Bhavan. But of course, sometimes there's little things that happen. And so if somebody would come to Mama and say, Mama, da, 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 Mama's reply would be, but you know, do you realize who you're talking about? Just think about it. These are those souls whom you worshipped in bhakti with such love. You offered them flowers, you offered them fruits, and you took care of even the non-living images. And here you are with the fortune of living with those deities. Except that now, of course, they're in their ordinary form. But don't see them as ordinary. See them as the living images, the living deities. And the fortune now is of being together and knowing this, that we're going to be together through the whole cycle. And of course, once that seed has been planted in your mind, and you look at another, a Brahmin who's maybe struggling with something or another, this is that same deity soul. Or maybe for yourself, you're seeing few things that are not so nice and you'd like to get rid of them now, but they persist. And so compassion for the self, wisdom for the self. Yes, I am that deity soul. All I have to do is remember who I am. Like the story about sweetness. Same. All I have to do is remember who I truly am and what it is I need to do today. And once you're able to do that, the rest is going to be very, very easy. So from Radhe, the Kumari, she became Om Radhe. And from Om Radhe, she became Jagadamba. Do you know how long it took? 18 months. That's it. Many of you have been in Baba's knowledge for 18 months, plus, 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 plus. But within 18 months, the Kumari became the mother. Why? It was a very natural transition. You know what happens in Baba's Yakya? You don't get given a title or a role. You share what you have in the way that you have to the best of your potential and your ability and your consciousness, and suddenly you find that there's a title that's given to you. The same thing happened with Jayanti. She was just serving people abroad with love and integrity and just wanting souls to come closer to God. That's it, nothing else. But then suddenly she was given the title Director of Foreign Services. And then, next step, suddenly she was given the title Chief of the Brahma Kumaris. So you play the role, the title then comes. And Mama, even as a Kumari, Om Radhe, why she became Om Radhe was because her chanting of Om was so magical that people experience a different dimension. And that was in the 3-month span that Baba went away to Kashmir. And when Baba came back, he saw the satsang had expanded. He was amazed. And it was because of Om Radhe and her chanting of Om that everybody loved. So Om Radhe, when she was in the Yakya, they would see her listen to Baba's Murli and become that, the embodiment of that. So young ones, old ones, brothers, sisters, mothers would come to her. Mama, how did you do this? I heard the same Murli. I haven't been able to do it. How did you do it? And Mama would explain in a very simple, clear way so that they could practice and attain that stage for themselves. So one day, then Baba says, Baba is going to now call you Mama, and you have been given the title of Jagatamba. And she said, but Baba, I'm your daughter. She was shy. She didn't want to take the title. And Baba said, no, Baba will also call you Mama. And her own mother was calling her Mama also. So 18 months, just imagine the quality and the speed of Mama's efforts. Similarly, when she became Karmatit, 29 years later, and there she was just 45, and she became Karmatit. There's a very lovely section in Adi Devi, the book about Jagatamba, and it describes Mama's experiences of the last, well, not the last, but after she became Avyakt, the next 13 days. So Dadi Gulzar was in Madhuban, and every day bhog was being offered. And the first couple of days, Mama didn't come to meet everyone. Then at some point, she has actually shared how Baba had made her well just before she left. And we saw this in Dadi Janki also. She became well. And then in that pure consciousness of God's remembrance, same thing. Mama became well. And that was partly detachment, partly help from Baba, so that then there was no sense of pain. And Mama gave the drishti and grapes from the first harvest of the vine that she had planted in Pandavavan, in the garden there. And so all that happened, and then Mama laid and so flew, and Baba had already called everyone to Abu because it was known that it was the last few days. And so everybody was there, and then Baba said, okay, let everybody sit in yoga. Baba detached and loving, and everybody else emotional. Baba saying, let's sit in yoga. That was the best tonic that they needed. But also Baba gave them a motive. Maybe Baba will send Mama back. So powerful yoga, all evening, all night. And then the next morning, the ceremonies started. And Mama saying how she was well, she flew to Baba, and then she was seeing the scene of everybody's emotion. And Baba's asking her, child, do you want to go back into that body? And she's not so sure. But around 4 o'clock in the morning, Baba does send her back. And they had seen a little movement. And some thought it was their imagination. Some thought Mama's come. But she came and flew away again very quickly, because she's described how the body was very cold and the body wasn't going to be suitable for any form of service anymore. And so she went back to Baba and said to Baba, Baba, I'll stay with you in the subtle region. And she's described also that stage of feeling completely free from pain, from everything else. And she said, Baba gave me that experience of being karmatit, totally detached from the body, unaffected by anything that was happening to the body, and up above. And then, of course, the soul did fly back. So, Mama's practice, soul consciousness, God consciousness, none but one, love for one. And so, from Jagadamba to Saraswati, the one who shared God's wisdom in a way that was meaningful and relevant and acceptable to all. The first Muslims came into Gyan through Mama in Pune. They've been coming, that were seeing Mama and seeing the embodiment of all virtues. And yes, this is who she is. She is that first goddess. And so that reinforced their faith. You didn't have to think about Mama becoming Lakshmi. Here it is. She is Lakshmi right in front of you. All the virtues are visible in her. She's not making effort for them, but they're there and they're being expressed in a very beautiful way. And Mama, as the goddess of wisdom, really able to explain Baba's murlis and things that Baba's saying in such a beautiful, simple way that is accessible to everyone. Profound truth and yet absolutely clear. No margin for confusion. And you've heard Mama's murlis from time to time, especially the one on the 24th. And you see how Mama takes up the subject of karma philosophy and explains it absolutely clearly. No margin for questions or hesitation. It's clear. But Mama explains it in a very natural, logical, simple way. It can't be challenged. And so today, also in schools, universities in India, they praise and sing hymns to Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom. Wisdom is when you're actually practicing and showing the reality of what you've been thinking and saying. And so Mama definitely playing that role. Mama Lakshmi, in a way that I've described with the virtues, but also the one who became the source of wealth for the yajna, seeing her renunciation, seeing her love for God and truth and her transformation. Daddy Chandramani's father was inspired to surrender all that he had. Daddy Shantamani's father, again, the same. And so we've heard about Baba's surrender, but the surrender of these two souls was also very powerful and incredible. And so they also were able to surrender, seeing Mama. And so the memorial of Kali, the surrender, the total sacrifice, Jhatku, at a stroke, and Mama's image, Mama's being, the embodiment, was able to inspire other souls. But also right till the very end, wherever Mama went, people were inspired to help the yajna. And all the way through, nearly till the end of Baba's Sakar days, the yajna was, yes, of course, it's God's yajna, but it was the opportunity for those who understood. And there was a small number of people who were full of faith, a few thousand at that time, no more than that, many more in contact, but with faith, a few thousand. And so their resources were so valuable at that moment. Today also, of course, but especially when the yajna was so tiny, when everything, every penny mattered. And so Mama was the instrument to allow that sacrifice for the yajna to happen. People were inspired. And so she became Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, the one who, Baba often asks us, well, where did Lakshmi get her wealth from? Well, she got it from Narayan, but in spiritual terms, we would say Shiv Baba, Brahma Baba, the bestowers of fortune, were the ones who gave her everything, but also whatever she was able to inspire others to do, of course, you get a share of that too. And so Mama, coming as a young Kumari, empty-handed, literally nothing. She had nothing except herself, which was more than enough. And what Baba wanted was that's all. Baba didn't want anything else. But yes, she then surrendered and became Lakshmi, the goddess who's still remembered and worshipped. And so the visible front face of the yajna, and so the first administrative head, and there were no systems in place in the days of Karachi. They'd come from very elegant homes, comfortable homes, and suddenly a life of surrender. Quite a big deal to bring all of them into the Raj Yogi life and that spectrum of renunciation and tapasya. But Mama was able to help them. And then in the days of Pandapavan, all the systems that still exist today, Mama established those systems. The signal came from Baba, but Mama was the instrument to make it all happen. And so how did she get those administrative skills? It was just through Baba's love. She was connected so deeply with Baba that she knew what to do, how to do at the right time. And so it wasn't a question of training, it wasn't a question of going somewhere to learn. But like Baba says, once you're connected with the seed, there's nothing that you don't know. And Mama was the demonstration of this. Brahma Baba had a lot of worldly experience. So a different example, but Baba able to let go of the ego of knowing, and Baba taught him everything else. But Mama, 16 years old, think back to when you were 16, how much did you know? I didn't even know myself, let alone anything else. I did not know myself. And yet Mama, knowing everything, almost from the moment she surrendered. And yes, it was a learning curve for her too, but the expression of that learning was so incognito. She heard, she understood, she became. And so the mechanism was working very, very fast. So today also, many, many inspirations from Mama. The most important inspiration, love for God, love for truth, obedience, purity. These are the main things to keep in mind. And Mama, absolutely stable, never shaken by anything. And so that's what we have to be too, especially that we have the examples of Baba, Mama, Om Shanti.
Gentlemen, thank you. That was awesome. Very lovely, and many things that I didn't know either all these years. Just, has she gone? Oh, yeah.
No, I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
here.
Okay, just a couple of little questions. Somebody asked me, at what point did Baba tell Mama that she was to become Lakshmi? Like, was it immediately or a few months? Because you said it took 18 months. to have that transformation. So,
In fact, it was the very first moment that Baba saw her, because when she came to the satsang with her mother and her aunt, then afterwards they were meeting Baba, and Baba asked her, "Who do you want to marry?" Because she was engaged. And do you want to marry the one in the suit boot, or do you want to marry the one in the deity costume, Pitambari? And she said to Baba, "I need a day." And Baba told her, "Fine." She came back next day. She probably didn't sleep the whole night. She came back next day and said, "Baba, I want to be in the yajna and serve the yajna." And so when Baba asked that question, then it's an indication that Baba was actually asking her, "Do you want to marry Narayan?" Baba didn't use that word, but he was asking her that question. So Baba recognized the soul instantly. And then later on, when the sisters would say to her, "Mama, do you ever think about yourself as Radhe? Do you ever think of yourself as Lakshmi?" Mama would be very mature and say, "Now I am Brahma Baba's daughter and I'm Baba's student." She wasn't opening up any other doors of imagination. Yes, she knew she was a deity, but now I'm Brahma Baba's daughter. And so she kept that consciousness of Baba, her father, and that respect, deep, deep love, with absolute respect, so that then there would be that obedience, never any familiarity.
and the other question that's come up over the last few days is a few people have said, well, I don't have a connection with Mama. So what would you reply to that? How to build that connection with Mama?
First, find out more and more about Mama. Read Adi Devi Jagatamba. There's an English version of the book, and I think it's probably there on some file somewhere. That'll help you, because the more you understand, the more you know, then the more you're able to appreciate. So find out more about Mama, learn more about Mama, and then reflect on how this young woman became a goddess. And when you reflect on it, take to have unbroken love for Baba, unshakable faith. What does it mean to have wisdom? And you'll begin to feel Mama guiding you and moving you from the direction of physical knowing to that space, that dimension which is subtle, and you will feel your connection with Mama.
Great. Thank you, Jayanti. Really lovely to have you, and you've kind of
Okay.
completed our Mama week.
Right,
I look
yes,
forward
today
to
is.
seeing you in London very soon. Link, URL link.
Yeah, sure. And here we have Radhe, the Radhe from Bahrain, not from Karachi. And she was saying to me a few minutes before I came into this room to do the call, "You're going to be talking to Bahrain." I said, "Yes, I am."
Thank you.
So, okay. Om Shanti.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
On a Friday. So wasn't that lovely? So many lovely little points. And yeah, I also like that when you are connected with the seed, then there is nothing you don't know.